Be exactly what you want to be without all of the fear around you. We have to stand up together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Chairman Project with me, Jason Sisneros, your humble host. And today we're going to be talking about pivoting to higher profits. We're going to talk about the concept of pivot. And we're shooting this live. Those of you that are watching this on replay, I've got this on video. Those of you that have signed up for the newsletter / show notes that I put together for this show every single week are going to be watching this through the platform on builttoexit.biz, where you put your email address in. You get all my notes. You get the prep for the show. You get the replay of this on video. And those of you that are with us live, and I would suggest coming live. We have lively conversations, as we just did before I just pushed record on this show, that adds value to us, the small business community. That's who these conversations are for. People that are looking to build. You've either started your own company, you're running somebody else's company, you've started your own business, you've been in business 5 to 10 years, whatever it is, you're looking for those nuggets for you to be able to improve your business so that you can build your company to exit, right? That's the concept that we have conversations around, is the concept of exit. The concept of exit is different for every single person who hears the word, who thinks of it, because you all have a different exit. My mentor said that business is not a bathrobe. One size does not fit all. That's why when you bump into people that are gurus, business gurus out there that are teaching from one perspective, right? And it could range, right? Let's say that you have a background in finance. You're going to teach, right? If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You're going to teach business consulting. You're going to build your businesses from a financial perspective. If you have a sales background, you're going to build or have an opinion about business from a sales background. If you're an operations person, you're going to have an operations background. Here, the conversations that we have are all centered around the idea of architecture. And that's my nickname in the business community, is the architect, because the architect takes in mind what the individual who is building something wants to build. And that's where we start with everybody that's listening, everybody that's on here. You're building your business. You got into this thing called business for your own reasons. And you have your own outcomes, what we call here the end game. You have your own end game in mind. And so as you build towards your end game, you have to have an architect, at least an architect's mindset, to be able to craft what it is that you're building for. And there is two things, right? There's actually three things. There's the start point of what resources you have and where you are in your own life. And then you have the end game, which is where most business owners drop the ball. They don't have their end game dialed in. They don't have where they're headed locked in. And so you can never have the middle point, which is to be able to architect your journey towards that outcome. And so that's what we talk about here. We talk about it from an architecture standpoint. And the point of conversation that we're going to have and talk about today is this word called pivot. I like taking names. I like taking words that are thrown around in the business community, especially in the business coaching community. I love taking words that are thrown around that people, generally speaking, don't have any concept about. We've talked about the idea of scale. Very few people that use the word scale actually know what scale means. And this was another one, this pivot. And so I wanted to dive in today and talk about it. And then we're going to have a conversation live on Twitter with some business experts that come in, my co-hosts that come in, people that have businesses. We're going to have a conversation afterwards. So make sure that you come and find at the J Sisneros on Twitter so that you can join our conversations on Saturday. So the three premises around the concept of pivot for me, right? Everybody's like, oh, you got to pivot, you got to pivot. We heard it a lot during COVID, right? In the business community. You got to pivot, you got to pivot. Well, what does that mean? And so I broke it down into what I've seen over my years and years and years of before my original career, which was a turnaround specialist, my second phase of my life, which was buying and fixing businesses that were broken, and keeping them as cash flow, and then ultimately exiting out of all of those businesses in 2019 into the consulting company Anton J, ANTONJAE.com. That has helped hundreds and hundreds of businesses. I've been on stage speaking to hundreds of thousands of business owners, and to have this conversation around what have I seen in real world, right? Not ChatGPT, not reading somebody else's book. What have I seen? What have me and my team seen in this concept and the idea around the word pivot? And it came down to three ways that I believe that people should pivot and the way that you should look at it, right? Pivoting is simply the idea of bumping up against a result, bad or good, and pivoting either towards the good or pivoting away from the bad result that you got. And so there's three ways, and here's the three words. If you want to write them down, I know we have a lot of note takers in the audience, right? But it's macro, micro, and rando. Those are the three types of pivots: macro, micro, and rando. And the challenge is why 95% of companies fail is because most of the people in the world, in the business world, in every other aspect of life really, but especially in the business community, is that they are doing the rando approach. Right? Something happens. We call it putting out fires. How many of you have used that phrase or heard that phrase from somebody in business? Right? Oh, I'm too busy. I can't have a conversation. I can't go on that vacation. I can't do this. I can't do that because I'm busy putting out fires. That is a huge indicator that you are using the pivot method of rando. You're doing something, you've got something, it's creating revenue. You may have your first employee, you may have 10 employees, may have 50 employees. And what happens is you find yourself in reaction mode, constantly in reaction mode. You're reacting to what is happening to you instead of acting upon the environment that you find yourself in. And that is some of the biggest. It's unplanned, it's reactionary, it's made without strategy, and it's often a response to immediate issues, right? The consequences of this, it explains the three words that I hear from most business owners, whether they say it out loud or whether it's unconscious that comes out. It's the three things that I hear the most: exhaustion, unpredictability, and the fear of failure, right? The fear of failure. And a lot of this comes from the idea, the perspective that we don't actually know what we're doing. And that plays to the ego side of things. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to act like I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to just react quickly. And so we become firefighters in our own business. Joe Callow's with us today in the audience. You'll hear from him if you're live. And he is the president of Anton J, and been with me about a decade now. But his former career was as in firefighting. He had an entire career in firefighting. And so it's a response to a fire. And in business, that's what we're doing constantly. The employee didn't show up. The economy did something. We've got an attorney, we've got an employee, we got an employee issue. These are firefighter issues. And that means that your pivot perspective is one of randomness. You haven't done any of the planning. And so the two pivot points that I wanted to focus in on, that you can focus in on your business today, moving forward, are the two ones that'll make all the difference in your business: macro and micro. Macro has to do with strategy, and micro has to do with having a system. Okay? Macro is the big picture. It's setting time. When was the last time that you sat down and you thought through what is your strategy going to be for the next 12 months? A lot of people say 5 years. I think that's end game planning, right? What we do at Built to Exit is we say, okay, where are you right now? We have an assessment, right? A very in-depth 50-question assessment to say, here's where my business is. Probably consciously, and most of the time that people go through our assessment process, they find themselves going, oh shit, I didn't really realize where it was. We're going through this whole entire branding conversation right now for Built to Exit, which we're going to roll out in the next 6 to 8 weeks. And part of that, one of the questions that the branding experts that I'm working with on this said is, Jason, what are the challenges that people go through when they are in business? What are they coming to you with? And I thought about it just for a second because I know the challenges, I know the pain points, I know the conversation, I know the things that are going through the minds because A, I was a business owner, B, I turned around a bunch of businesses, and C, we consult with people every single day. And I answered in this way. I said, whatever it is that they tell me, it's not that thing. Okay? Whatever it is that they tell me, it's not that thing. Because think about it. We're all like looking for answers. We go, oh, it's my employee. Is it the employee? There's a step before that. Okay, no, it's the economy. Is it the economy? No, it's a step before that economy, right? Is it a legal issue that you find yourself in? Is it passing it over to your next generation? All of these things that we hear, I said it's never the thing. And he got a little bit questioning with me. He said, hey, he goes, what does that even mean? And that's what's inspired this actual show. Is it's not ever the thing, because very few people, remember, there's only 5% of companies that survive beyond a decade. There's less than 1% of the companies that are ever put on the market, right? Or that are out there, less than one that ever successfully exit. You want to dive into that minority of companies that gets it right. And every single one of them, the ones that I turned around, my own companies that were successful, the ones that we've turned around, the business owners that listen to us and hire us at Anton J, the people that have gone through the Built to Exit system called growthcourse.com, everybody that's gone through it takes the time to have a macro vision for pivotability. And that is the word strategy. Sitting down and saying, what is my approach? Here's the product. We know our product. We know our service. We know that we're doing a good job. If you're going to be successful in business, whatever your product or service is, has to actually do what it says it does for us to be able to have this conversation. If you're not to that point yet, then you're not really to a point that you've got to make your product and or service stand out. It's got to do what it says. You've got to ease suffering. You got to save people money, make people money, or radically and measurably improve their quality of life. Beyond that, now that you've done that, now we get into the master skill sets. The skill sets that gurus can't teach because they're too busy. They read a book and now they're in business of being a guru and trying to sell you bullshit. Or they're trying to sell you their one little vertical that they know something about, sales, right? Finance, operations, whatever it is. But none of them, not none of them, but very, very few of them can speak to you as an architect. In order for you to be your own architect, you've got to look at things from the macro level. You've got to be able to look at the overarching strategy phase. Are you a business owner that's looking to build your company into a machine that creates cash? I'm Jason Sisneros, chairman and founder of Anton J Global, a world-class business consulting company that has turned around, merged, or prepped for sale hundreds of companies just like yours. I'm best known as the architect when it comes to fixing and building companies across the globe. My experience comes from owning and exiting over 20 of my own companies successfully. It's that real-world experience that I've converted into the ultimate blueprint that has saved and grown my clients' businesses. If you're tired of getting bad advice, have bought all the books, all the coaching programs, and still aren't seeing the success that you were promised, it might be time to work with a team that has actual experience and a track record of success. Please scan the QR code or visit antonj.com to schedule your free 15-minute consultation to see if we can help you reach your outcomes. That's antonj.com, ANTONJAE.com. And here's the three parts that exist in the macro phase. The start, where you are, what resources you have, what do you have at your disposal? The finish, what does it look like for me to be able to exit, time-wise, money-wise, stuff paid off, all those other kind of things. And then what are the steps that I'm going to structure that have the highest level of potential and predictability for me to be able to reach that end game? If you're missing those three things, you haven't sat down and actually strategized out your business. It means that you're going to be rando all day long. It means that your pivots are going to be directed by things outside of your control and influence and impact and your ability to be able to modify them. So you've got to sit down, take the macro pivot perspective and say, what is my start? Where am I? Right? We've got an assessment. Anybody that wants to reach out, you can just reach out to us via the builttoexit.biz. We'll get you the assessment. And it gives you a score, right, of where you are in that process. Most business owners don't want to do that, number one, because it will point out their weaknesses. And if you are an egotistical, rando business builder, you don't want to really know where you're at. You really don't want to look at your bank account. You really don't want to take responsibility for your own behavior. This is the wrong conversation for you. But if you do, you're going to sit down, you're going to strategize. Here's where I am and all of the assessment that it takes to get there. Here's the finish, which we also have built now, an end game calculator for you that you can get. And that end game calculator is just going to flush out what you in particular. The show is not about the masses. It's about you. It's about the one listening, for you to be able to figure out where you are, where you want to go, and then structure your business accordingly. You want a $2 million business? You're not going to need all 40 assets that you need to build for your business. You want a $20 million business? Maybe you're going to have 25 of those assets built for you, right? If you want to build a company that's $1 billion business, you're damn straight going to have all 40 assets. Right? You want to build it, sell it. There's one strategy. You want to keep it. You want to build another company. You want to have multitudes of companies. You want to do one company and then start a charity. You want to do one company and then leave and go sail the 7 seas. Everybody's strategy is different. That's why this show is for the one. It's for you. And so we've got to have that macro plan in place. What is my assessment of where I am? What's my end game calculator of where I want to go? And then what is the assets that need to be built for me to be able to predictably get there? You can't have that conversation with a painter. Now, this is not to denigrate painters. It's an example. It's a metaphor. It's just saying that if I want to build a 10,000 square foot home with a theater in it and a basketball court and a mother-in-law's cottage and a pool, and I want it to be overlooking this, and I want it to be built just off the water, and I want this and I want that and all that other kind of stuff, I got to have a conversation with an architect, not the painter. I've got to be able to have a conversation with an architect, not the flooring person. I've got to have a conversation with an architect, not the electrician. I got to have a conversation with the architect, not even the general contractor. Because that architect is going to sit me down, we're going to assess where I'm starting, where do I want to go, and they're going to tell me, here's what you need to be able to do that, and here's the sequence, and here's the subs that you need to hire, and here's the time frame, and et cetera, et cetera. Look at your business the same exact way. That's why it's called built to exit, not rando to exit. Not guess to exit, not hope to exit, not guru to exit, not gamble to exit. It's built to exit. Critical for the long-term success of your business. That's your macro pivot. Micro pivot. Micro pivot, these are the smaller, immediate adjustments based on feedback within the framework of the macro pivot, right? It's the insight, it's the guts, right? Somebody could design, like you could architect out all, the Grandmaster Patek, or the Patek Philippe Grandmaster Chime watch that we've talked about here. 100,000 hours, 7 years to build, $30 million to price. 6 of them were sold before they were even finished, and the other one was sold within a day or two after it was finished. That's the kind of business that you're looking for in your own terms. Maybe not a $30 million watch, but it's a $2 million business for you. It's a $5 million business for you. Whatever your end game calculator tells you, that's the business that you're trying to build. And the micro pivots come from having a system. Macro strategy, micro system. Do you have a system that gives you feedback on the assets that you build, on the machinery that you build in between your beginning assessment and your end game? Do you have a system that can help you get feedback from the decisions that you're making? I want to go on Facebook and do ads. I want to go on Twitter and do ads. I want to put some in the newspaper. I want to do this. I want to hire 2 people. And it's got every action that you take has a reaction. It has something that happens that tells you what your next step should be. And it tells you in the language of finance, which means you need to know and understand finance. Right? We call it the core 4. Number 1 is your culture. There's a bunch of stuff that goes into that. O for in the core is operations. R in the core is revenue. And E is the exit. And you cannot even exit. We don't even put finance in there until the exit period, because you can't even think about exiting until you know the language that your business is speaking, called finance. So are you rando pivoting, or are you macro and micro pivoting? If you have a strategy, that's macro. If you have a system, that's micro. Lots of people out there there's a few people out there that have systems for you to be able to follow. But you can do this. Like I said, if you don't have the cash, if you don't have the revenue, which I don't think the answer should be nobody doesn't have the revenue. I know that's a double negative, right? But nobody doesn't have the amount of money that they need to be able to fix their company. I know, because I'm one of these people, that you have to vet, you have to do your due diligence. You don't want to give your money to somebody or to other places that tell you that they know what they're doing and then they don't know what they're doing. Because you're hiring a painter to architect your business. Because you're hiring an electrician to architect. It doesn't mean that they're not important. They are for the finished product. But they cannot architect with you. Okay? So macro and micro. And there's lots of different examples, as I've thought through and gone through a ton of these conversations with a ton of business owners. This is one of the biggest challenges, is the awareness. And that's what this show does. It gives you the awareness of the things that you should be thinking about, right? AI is in the minds of a lot of business owners today, which is great. It's another tool properly used. If you have your macro, your strategy in place, and you have your system in place on the micro to be able to adjust to say, I'm going to put AI in these particular areas to do what? To speed up your journey to exit. That's what this stuff is to do. It goes here in my machinery. It might go in 4 places. It might go in 5 places. It might go in 1 place. But where does AI fit? Where does social media fit? Where does onboarding fit? Where does hiring fit? Where does my finance fit? What do I need to do in operations, which is the delivery on the promise? Where does it fit? So that I can put it in there. It becomes part of the machinery that either improves the output or makes it worse. So these are the types of pivots, right? This is why it's misunderstood in the business world of pivot. Some people, you're just pivoting all the time. If you're rando pivoting, you're going to get exhausted. Those 3 things that I said happens from rando pivoting: exhaustion, unpredictability, and ultimately failure. But if you're doing micro and macro together in concert with each other, macro first, micro second. Hi, my name is Jason Sisneros, founder and chairman of Anton J Global, a world-class business consulting company that has helped hundreds of clients and thousands of growth course students fix, scale, and successfully master their businesses. To put it simply, my team and I help people turn their businesses into machines that create cash. To better support startups and other mid-sized companies, my team and I developed a phenomenal and comprehensive digital growth course where I poured decades of business ownership and know-how into 20 hours of content. This course is not easy. It's not an easy pill, but demands real work from you to implement the blueprints that I've developed. We know that reaching financial freedom is never easy, but totally worth it. Go to growthcourse.com right now to learn more about the course and get started on your business journey today. Now you have a chance, provided that your product and or service is easing suffering or doing one of the three things that a business is built for in the first place: make people money, save people money, or measurably improve the quality of their life. So that's the conversation. And this week, take action after the show. Don't care when you watch this. You're watching this now, you're watching this 3 years from now, I don't really care. Sit down and say, where in my business am I having rando pivoting happening? Where in my business have I done the work? And if not, when will I do the work of macro strategy? And where in my business have I built a system? And a system captures repetitive behaviors for the purpose of measuring their quality, the output. So that's that. Everybody has to have a beginning point. You got to know where you're at. You got to know your resources. Everybody has to have your end game calculated, and you have to have your system in the middle of it that's going to be able to predictably be built, architected in a way that is going to predictably get you to your end game. And that is exit. Everybody listening to me, you are building your business to exit. It's one of those things of awareness that sometimes people watch 6, 7, 8, 9 of my podcasts. And then they call me and they're like, holy shit, I just came to the conclusion finally that I am building something to exit. I'm not building most people are building to exist. That's the exact opposite of what you should be doing. Yes, you may want to stay in your business because you love it for the rest of your life. But your exit means that you have the things that you're building for in the first place. Freedom, a roof over your head, education for your children, vacations to go see the world outside of your neighborhood, charity, giving to the things that you care about, starting another business. Those are the things that matter, and they're unique to each and every one of you. No architecture, no strategy, no macro, no micro, none of them are built the exact same every single time. It's built for your exit. So stop modeling people who are building for other reasons and for their own end game, and do your own. It points your own resources of time, money, effort, a relationship, innovation, all of those, it ties all of those things for the one purpose. And that's for you to exit and to gain your own freedom and your own control. This show is for people who literally have started a business, a 95% chance of failure, a group of people that literally understand that you owning a business is a blatant act of rebellion. You are all rebels. You have a belligerent refusal. I know what you put in. I know your behaviors. I know your mindset. I know your hearts. You have a belligerent refusal to be controlled. And so you've taken a modicum of control to control your own financial destiny in the form of a business. Understand the nature of the beast that you have chosen to participate in, so that you can drain from it the value of setting yourself free. And in so doing, you do it for the rest of us in the Built to Exit community. We need as many of us thriving and doing business with each other instead of these large corporations that don't care about anybody except for the bottom line. I'll finish with this. I saw a speaker that fired me up. It was the first time in over 100 years that the head of the Teamsters, a union, stepped foot on a Republican stage. Okay, this is not a political statement, so don't block it out or get excited about it because of your red or blue. Okay, but listen to what I'm about to say. For the first time in over 100 years, a Teamster of a union stood on a stage at a Republican convention and said this: corporations have stopped caring about the people that work there. And it's draining communities. He went through and made a very, very powerful case. And he's there for the people, which I understand and I love that concept. But he said the word corporation. And I wanted to scream onto this to the television. I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to put these words in his ear. I've reached out already to see if I can have this guy on my podcast so that we can have a conversation, because there is a missing piece. There's the employees, which should be taken care of, which these unethical corporations are taking advantage of, that are trying to just take their repetitive behaviors, turn them into robots, and then fire them and push them out into obscurity. That control when they take a pee, when they can be sick, when they can visit their kids. I understand the us versus them in that conversation, but there's a big chunk that got left out of that conversation that both sides need to be talking about, and that is ethical business owners. And when I say ethical, I mean the small SMEs, 0 employees to 499. These are communities. These are people they're big in some areas, smaller in other areas, but it's 60% of our GDP, 60% of our hiring, and 100% of why we live as a free society. Because 33 million people in this country can carve out and craft their own level of freedom economically. And we cannot get lumped into these unethical corporations. We cannot. We have to stay separate from, because we are different. We are different than employees, and we are different than unethical capitalists. That's why we need to gather. That's why so many people show up with us on Saturday. That's why so many people are sharing the show, is because that's the purpose. That's why I'm still in the game. And I need to educate as many business consultants, as many business coaches, as many business owners as I possibly can in the SME community to do better, to make more money, to stay more free, to do more business with others just like them, to stop doing business with Amazons of the world, to stop doing business with companies like Microsoft, to start doing business with each other, because this is where innovation lives. This is where freedom lives. This is where we all continue and pass on to the next generation our level of opportunity that was handed to us by better men and women that came before us. That's it for the Chairman Project with Jason Sisneros this week around the idea pivot. Take notes, put this in your own business, do your strategy, make sure you have a system. If you need either one of those, you need start point, end game calculator, you need a system, you need help with strategy, we're here. All you got to do is reach out through builttoexit.biz, and we're here to help you. I love you all very much. We're going to go back into the live conversation. I brought in some specific guests to have this conversation so that we can talk about it. Go to Twitter if you want to watch the replay and hear the conversations that we have, or just join us live when you can. Have an amazing week. I love you all very much.